years I would talk about how I wanted to change the world, but I always left it up for someone else to do. But then I finally realized I needed to take a stand, and that by changing my thinking I could change my life. And that's how I could change the world. So let there be peace. I am a stand for peace. Let there be love. I am a stand for love. Let there be joy. I am a stand for joy. We are making a new world now. Let there be peace. I am a stand for peace. Let there be love. I am a stand for love. Let there be joy. I am a stand for joy. We are making a new world now. Let there be peace. I am a stand for peace. Let there be love. I am a stand for love. Let there be joy. I am a stand for joy. We are making a new world now. Let there be peace. I am a stand for peace. Let there be love. I am a stand for love. Let there be joy. I am a stand for joy. We are making a new world now. Let there be peace. I am a stand for peace. Let there be love. I am a stand for love. Let there be joy. I am a stand for joy. We are making a new world now. Let there be peace. I am a stand for peace. Let there be love. I am a stand. I'm gonna stand up for joy. I am a stand for joy. We are making a new world now. Let there be peace. I am a stand for peace. Let there be love. I am a stand for love. Let there be joy. I am a stand for joy. We are making a new world now. Let there be peace. I am a stand for peace. Love. I am a stand for joy. I am a stand. We are making a new world now. I know we are making a new world now. I can see it. We are making a new world now.
Welcome, everyone. We are so glad that you are with us. My guest today is Reverend Cylvia Hayes, ordained Unity minister who is also a writer, a speaker, and a teacher in the areas of spirituality, the environment, economic system change, and sacred activism. Her mission, I love this, is to help heal separation consciousness, so that humanity can develop an ecological mindset and all creation can thrive. She is the founder and CEO of 3E Strategies and the Rethink Ministry. She was First Lady of Oregon and an award-winning environmental and anti-poverty activist. Before the UWH acquisition, she was a member and then chair of UWM's Earth Care and Social Action Teams. Since the acquisition, she is chair of the Unity Social Action Team. Her Substack is Transcend for those who want raised consciousness, economic system change, and she's author of the book, When Life Blows Up, A Guide for Peace, Power, and Reinvention. Sounds very apropos for this time, Cylvia. And she's given a TED Talk entitled, Who Do You Think You Are? I love that. And I imagine it is that we think we're divine because we know it in unity. And we're all here right now as divine beings, open to what the world would have us do and know in these times. Welcome, Cylvia.
Thank you for having me.
So I'm wanting to know what is strumming your fiddle in these troubling times in our nation and on the planet.
Well, when we scheduled to do this interview, it was pre the last couple of weeks where we have seen federal agents murder a couple of American citizens. And that is pretty front and center for me. I was actually was writing a piece on it this morning just before we got together for this interview, because there is a lot of social action happening around the situation that we're in right now. So that's what's really front and center. And I will say another frustration that I've been carrying is my number one issue, my number one passion is our natural world and what's happening to it. But we are so inundated by the authoritarian power grab situation that we're facing in the US that environmental issues have fallen off a lot of radar screens, which hurts my heart.
Yeah. I heard Marianne Williamson recently use the word corporate feudalism.
Yeah.
And that really fits with what you're talking about in all the arenas.
It does, for sure. Yeah. I have said for a long time that I think most of the major problems before us, from climate change to species loss to entrenched poverty, are actually symptoms of a fatally flawed economic system. So that's a big issue. I've been tilting that windmill my whole adult life.
Yeah, good for you. Good for you. Tell me, when did you first feel the call to social justice? You say your whole life. How old were you? And I also want to emphasize the call for people that may be watching, that may be being called in this time or want to be called. So tell us what that was, how old you were, and what that was like for you.
Yeah, sure. I do think one of the bright spots in the pretty dark times that we're all navigating is that we are seeing a greater activation of activism, right? I think for a long time we sort of were like, democracy can be taken for granted, and now we're realizing, wow, no, it can't. So I was born with an activist heart, but I was born into a pretty genteel time. I was born in '67, but now this time it feels like this is real activism again. This is my generation, '60s, basically. And I first really got activated in my late teens, early 20s. And in my early 20s, let me take a step back. I had a pretty rough teen years, pretty rough situation there, and was kind of in big time survival mode. But I seem to have been born with a love of our non-human species and a love of this planet and creation. So I felt that love, and I was a rough little country kid, so I spent a lot of time alone out with wild creatures and whatnot. And I'm a first gen college grad, and I started to community college at 20, I believe. And pretty early on, I took a course on environmental studies, and it was in that course that I realized that we were hemorrhaging species from this planet because of human activities like mining and fossil fuels and drift net fishing, and that was my call. That lit a fire in me. I had started to college thinking I was going to be a veterinarian, and in that moment, it was like, no, I'm going to be an environmental activist. I'm gonna fight for all of creation.
Wonderful. I know I started seminary. We both went to the same seminary, UUMS, and I started knowing I didn't want to be a church minister, but I didn't know what I was going to do. And all of a sudden, one day, I could feel, you talk about embers. I could talk about embers in my heart, no longer just glowing, but on fire when when it went, oh, it's social activism.
Yeah, I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I had I had a rough childhood and have developed post-traumatic stress resilience and have two black belts in karate
Wow.
and my sailboat, which after my late husband died, I single-handed, was called Warrior Woman.
Right
So
on.
so that warrior spirit, and the warrior spirit is so important for today. And our last message last week was about we've got to have a warrior heart, and that means a heart of love, in order to do the social activism that we do.
Yeah, we definitely do. I mean, I just published a piece on sacred activism, and the point that, and I speak on that topic a lot, and the point that I often make is everybody needs to become an activist. If I could put a burr under every Unity and New Thought person's saddle pad, it would be
Yes.
to take our meditation off the mat and into the messes.
Right.
It's really needed. I mean, I'm a Unity minister. I too never aspired to hold down a brick and mortar ministry. I believe our movement is what is needed in this time
Yes.
to
Yeah.
save humanity from itself and to save a whole lot of other species and whatnot from us. So that's been a big motivating driver of my ministry. And
Yeah.
what I like to point out to people is that doesn't necessarily mean everybody needs to get into protests and whatnot. Not necessarily, although we need a lot of that, and I'll come back to it later. But we're trying to create an ecosystem of a new way of being. And in an ecosystem, you have a bunch of different niches. You know, the creature or this little creature eats a certain seed from a certain tree and poops that out and propagates that tree. Well, not all creatures have to eat that same seed. We need the diversity. It's the same with sacred activism. There are many, many different forms of it.
Right. And to act really fits with Unity's fifth principle. Fourth
Yes.
principle, we pray and meditate on what is ours to do. Fifth principle, we go out in the world and take action. And many teachers, I know Dr. Jean Houston decades ago was saying, this is the most important time on earth to be reincarnated. Other generations have thought that, but it's us. And so does that book, Understanding Your Soul. If she was channeling Jesus, I know there's controversy around that, but it really touched me
It feels
that every one of us is incarnated at this time to have a critical role in what's going on in the world, which I think is a rebirth of consciousness.
I think it has to be. You know, the future is being shaped right now. And in some way, we're all shaping it. And we need people with spiritual wisdom and the ability to maintain inner peace in the midst of the fray. We need us to be active and shaping it. I feel that very strongly. It's why I'm a unity minister more than anything else.
Right. Um, Yeah, I remember, and I mentioned it, I think, in one of my recent social justice messages, but that it was an indigenous wise elder who said, we are in the birth canal of a new consciousness. And because we're all one, we're all in there. And some of us are also standing outside as birth doulas. And birth is messy and painful, and yet we have to hold the ground of what we're in. And some people who know about the unitive field and consciousness says it only takes 12% of our population to hold that spiritual consciousness. And yet that's a lot of us. We got to do it.
Yeah, it's interesting related to that. There's like a good body of evidence now that shows whenever a peoples are trying to resist an authoritarian regime, if in situations where 3.5% of the population take to the streets, when 3.5% get active, they have succeeded. Those resistance movements have succeeded. So here in the US, we had our first big rally. We had a few million people, the first big national. Then we had No King's Day. We had like 5 million. No Kings 2 had 7.5. If we get to 12 million, that's 3.5% of the US
Oh,
population.
okay.
So, that's partly what I'm always trying to share, that because there's precedent, that we don't need to add all that many more to
Right.
really shift this thing.
Yes. I was really touched by that movie Nuremberg. Have you seen that?
I haven't seen it yet.
Well, the
I've
guy
heard
that
it's very
plays,
powerful.
yeah, it is. And one of the key figures in that movie is first a psychiatrist who was assigned to uh, be, I think it was Goebbels' psychiatrist. I think he was the one that was still alive and being tried, psychiatrist, and yet he was being told by his military authorities that he had to tell them what Goebbels was saying so that they could get him at the trial, which put him in a spot. However, there was this one soldier who was enlisted man, and he had been a soldier in the German army. And then he had to flee Germany because he was Jewish, and then became a member of the American Army. And he said the problem with Germany was that the people didn't speak up soon
Yep.
enough. And that has made me so grateful that we are speaking up. So grateful that right now the people that you spoke of in Minneapolis are speaking up. We are not shutting up, nor should we. And yes, go ahead.
No, I think that's spot on. I was just writing down that movie because it was on my radar screen and had fallen off, but it sounds very, very appropriate for these times. And did you have something else to say?
I, Go ahead. I forgot. Go ahead.
I
It'll
do,
come back to me.
I do think something that's really very important in this new era of activism is being ready to document, being ready to video what's going on. We currently have a federal government that's gaslighting us, and they immediately shift narrative to a narrative that they want. If we had not had video, especially of Alex Preddy's murder, the dominant narrative would be that he was brandishing a gun at federal officers, which we have ample video showing that is not at all what happened.
Right.
So that's a new thing. This is a relatively new evolution in activism, is making sure we're videoing, and of course being as careful as we can be. So in doing so.
Yeah. Yeah. And that reminds me of what I was going to say. That is another step in our speaking out, is the video documentation. And I was also going to say that your state, Oregon, is such a great model when ICE was there of peacefully demonstrating
Yes,
because
the frogs.
right, the frogs
Yes.
and the costumes and the laughter and the joy and the singing. And I think it's so important to remember that because the administration is looking for any
Yes.
excuse to say, oh, this is a violent mob, and we cannot give them that. We must not give them
We
that.
must not. That's where our principle really can come to serve us, right? We
Right,
must not.
right.
The I'm so proud of Oregon for being the birthplace of the dancing frogs. At one of the big protests I was at here, I was watching as a huge inflatable raccoon crossed a crosswalk and gave a huge inflatable frog a kiss at
Oh,
the red light, and then they go back, and it's like it diffuses.
yes,
It shows the
yes,
ridiculousness of what we're up
right.
against, and it also diffuses. I will say for anyone watching this who has not yet gone to these protests or rallies, going to documenting an ICE invasion is different, and you need to take different safety measures, I would say, at this point. But these big national protests, it's self care because you
Right,
get out there and you realize I am not alone. There are
right,
millions of
right,
us, and
right.
we are peaceful.
Yes.
We can't be squashed. So we're not going to just let democracy die without a fight.
Right. And I think too that the Oregon responses to ICE also radiated love. I mean, like you're talking about that scene and our social justice movement, Unity's social justice movement, has to radiate love.
I so agree with you. It's beautifully said.
And for me, that also, and I have to work with this a lot, is looking at people that I feel judgmental of inside and don't like their behavior and don't like their words. And I have to remember and do my best to go, okay, they've got a bunch of mud over some big wounds, and underneath that is the divine. And I must remember that. And that's a big challenge at these times.
I love you for bringing that up. It absolutely is. I have a little brother who's MAGA, and we're mostly not talking to each other, which has been off and on with us for a long time. He's not a very pleasant person, and I have to have boundaries with
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
But I also I recently taught a course. It's been a little while now, actually. Over the summer, I taught a course in for the urban school in conversation skills. And one of the books I worked with, for anyone that this is resonating with, for any of you who have friends or family that you're estranged from because of the political divide, I cannot recommend. In fact, I did not intend to do this for this interview. I cannot recommend strongly enough this book.
Yes, we had that too when I was at the
Okay,
urban
How
school.
to Have Impossible Conversations with
Hmm.
Peter Boghossian and James Lindsay.
Yes,
And I don't want to take too much time with this interview, but it has very practical tools for how to interact with folks
right,
on the other end of a political
right,
belief
right,
without escalating the divide.
right. I had a brunch with a dear friend of mine a few weeks ago. Her name is Latricia Calaire, and she's going to be on when we do racial justice. She's
Oh,
going to
cool.
be the guest. And she is an African American woman who's been out there in the streets early on, a long time. And she said, and this is important for me to remember too, that I will stay in conversation with anybody as long as they do not diminish my humanity.
Yeah,
And
that's really well
so
said.
that self care involves listening with compassion when we're in that kind of dialogue that's explained in that book. And also for me, stepping away when I need to while holding the love and the compassion and the memory of the divinity. Both of those things I think are important.
I agree, and I think that takes, speaking from the I, for me, that has taken, I'm now 58, and I would say it's only been the last couple of years that I've been better at that because as A Course in Miracles would talks about attack thoughts, I had a tendency to have a lot of attack thoughts in me, and if I get attacked, my go-to is to attack back. And my little brother is my most profound classroom because he's abusive.
Hmm.
He's abusive, and so I've had to learn it really wasn't hard for me to learn boundaries for myself. Probably like you, I've got some pretty strong muscles there, starting young. But my growing edge was, how do I have boundaries and detach, not
Yes.
escalate it, not attack back, just
Right.
realize I'm not
Right.
going to take that for myself.
Right.
I'm not gonna add more ugliness to this ugliness.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, when I'm at protests, for instance, if you get the occasional, what they call the carbon rollers, the guys in the big trucks, they come by and they rev the engine and belch out the stuff and peel off, or they'll flip you off. When I get flipped off, I blow them a kiss, and they're just like, ugh. They just, it's just that just
Oh,
sets
that's
them
a
right back.
great gesture. I love that.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah. Well, I want to go back to that important thing that you brought up too, Sylvia, about there's a different niche for everyone. Some people, even with this broadcast, I thought, well, I'm just doing a broadcast. Shouldn't I be out on the street organizing protests or something? But I have people who do that a lot better than I would do it. And this was what I was called to do. And so I keep going, yeah. I mean, God keeps saying, yep, this is what you're called to do. I also heard someone on town hall meeting who said, I'm just so sensitive. I can't watch the news. I can't be out there in the streets. And this was a Marianne Williamson Substack video town hall meeting. And Marianne said, there's a place for all of us. We also need ritualists and people who would pray and meditate. And for those of us who are called to action, prayer and meditation is not enough. But I think also the sacred ritualist, there's a niche there for that too.
I love that term. Marianne and I are friends. I've had her on. My program.
Yeah.
And I write about this again a lot. But in the piece I recently put out, I hope folks will check out my Substack. That's a growing piece of my ministry. If you're digging this topic, please check it out.
I hope they will too, and it's on our resources page.
You're very sweet. But yes, there are many niches in sacred activism, and we need them all. I mean, funding good causes, that's a form of activism. I hadn't heard that term again. What was it? Ritual.
A ritualist, and I think about the grandmothers,
Ritualist
who,
activism. I
those
love that.
indigenous grandmothers who walked somewhere, I think to the UN or something, and just did a ritual in front of the UN. They were supposed to see somebody who said they would show up and didn't, but they did the ritual anyway as a group.
We've got monks marching across the country right now in
Yeah,
behalf of peace, right? And garnering media attention, which raises
right.
awareness. And Pat, to your point, this is a really important niche that you're doing, because a whole lot of folks are not as comfortable speaking as crazy people like you and me, right? So public speaking is like, but that's a call and a talent that we have. So there's so many. There's
Yeah,
Yeah, we need people to lead from in front, from beside, and from behind right
right, right. Good point. Good point. Well, you talked about something that sometimes comes with social activism. When you were First Lady of Oregon, you said you were publicly humiliated for some social action.
Well,
We
yes,
got that right? Do you want to talk about that?
sure. It was partly because I was very atypical and an activist. What happened is, my partner is the long-term governor of Oregon. He and I started seeing each other right after he had termed out, and then we had been together a number of years, and he started thinking about running again, and which I supported. Got into office. I was serving as a very engaged, policy-oriented activist first lady. I was taking on things like poverty and environment and climate, and very, very engaged, and upset the status quo for sure. We also, both John, my partner, and I, former Governor Kitzhaber, believe we need to evolve past a two-party political system. So we stirred the pot that way, talking about that as well. And what happened is, a reporter who had been trying to get me for years found out that many years prior I had been involved in a green card marriage for money that was to give that person permanent status here. He'd been here for a long time on scholarship, went on to be a professor at a Ivy League school, et cetera, et cetera. But it was also money for me to go to college. I didn't have any, so discovered that and used those deeds from my past to launch an orchestrated campaign that the governor and I had misused our public positions for personal gain. And there were many behind it. The Republican National Committee was behind it. Some big corporations were behind it. There was a lot there. And we were investigated for 2.5 years by the FBI, the IRS, Department of Justice, all of that. And I was just trashed. I mean, trashed. Death threats, rape threats, more lies than you could spread about a person. Malicious Wikipedia page was put up about me. I mean, it was wild. And the darkest period of my life, to be sure. That's why my book is When Life Blows Up. However, I used to call it the big ordeal, and then I started calling it the big initiation because it broke me down and then broke me open. It was a real spiritual maturation process. So it's rough. We as a biologically are not designed to be ostracized by the tribe. It's very, very emotionally intense. So that's what I went through. And yeah.
You said, is the book the good thing that came out of it, and you came through it and you experienced it as an initiation? Is that the good stuff that came out of it?
Oh, definitely part of it. I think the biggest thing is I would never have realized, I didn't understand. My motives were always great in my work. They were. I mean, I would lay my life down if, some divine being came and said, you lay your life down and the rest of humanity will get in harmony with the rest of nature, I would do it. But I was also very ego driven, and I needed external validation to feel worthy, to feel significant. And I had to face that. I mean, that's brutal work to have to face that. I was more politically naive than I realized. I thought I was pretty savvy. I was crushed in there, right? So I had to face really difficult things to face about oneself. And I will tell you, it took a number of years and a lot of hard work. But I am genuinely so much happier now and so much more genuinely comfortable in my own skin. I don't know if I could have gotten there. I think I was kind of like the Darth Vader of ego. It's like I had all this power, but I didn't know I wasn't necessarily using it correctly. So,
Beautiful. Well, thank you. What would you say to people who may want to do something and don't know what they want to do and maybe feel a little reluctant? What would you say to our viewers who are in that space?
I think the place to start is with where your passion or love lies. Like, if you care about everything, you can't do everything. So what's the issue that if you really could step into and change, you would? And is there a place in your community, maybe your online community, where you can step in and have some good, or have an impact, And I think it's okay also to test causes, to test some things. But the main thing is you got to rip the scab off and get out there. you gotta do something. You gotta pay it. You gotta really embody our fifth principle, action.
Right. Yes. Yeah. I know when I was going to write the message for the first broadcast, first online broadcast, we do a service and then a boots on the ground, fourth Sunday, first Sunday of the next month. And I thought I could knock it off in a day. It took me 5 days. And I realized that when I give messages at my Unity church, I can see the whole congregation out there, and they're nodding and they're smiling and they're supportive. And now I could just see a camera.
Yes.
And it was fear I had to work through, like, what if nobody shows up? Who am I going to talk to? Who's going to be there? Who am I talking to? So now I just imagine friendly faces on the other side of that camera. So,
Yeah.
there's fear sometimes too.
Oh, there is, and it really that part of the online stuff is harder because a speaker does feed off in a good way the energy in the room, and
Hmm.
you even sometimes go back and forth with the audience a little bit. All of that is easier than keeping your energy up into a camera lens.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah, my second message I did in one afternoon. So
There you go.
yeah, I got used to it. But fear is also a part of it, and I think, I remember when I was training for my black belt, and I had my sensei was this amazing man. He was an eighth degree black belt. He still is an amazing man. He's turned into a minister himself
Oh, wow.
in another congregation. But after my training, I was watching him and the other teacher there, who was a woman, and she was a fifth degree black belt. And they were sparring like crazy. And I was sitting there, I was standing there going, and the sensei looked at me and he said, my nickname in the dojo was Big Dog. And that's because he started calling me that when I was still a white belt, like the Lord. He was, do you want to be a big dog? And I said, yes, sir. Yes, sir, I want to be a big dog. And he
Oh, that's
said,
funny.
well, then you need to start right now. La, la, la. So he looks at me on this day. I'm watching them fighting. I'm a brown belt training for black. And he said, Big Dog, are you scared? And I said, yes, sir, I am. He said, I just changed clothes for my training. He said, go back in and suit up and come out here with me. So I did. And what I remember is once I got out there and doing it, all the fear was gone. I was
Hmm.
just focused on the moment and on doing the best I could in response to this master. And I think that's what happens when we get out there, you know?
Oh, I think so too. Even in like the protests, I've done a lot of them. I've now been in this round against the authoritarian grab that's happening. I've been at the big national protests in 3 different states, multiple different communities, many of
Hmm.
them not
Hmm.
bastions of liberalism,
Hmm.
and all of them have actually been. You're a little nervous at first, especially when you're going to some of these smaller, more conservative places. But
Hmm.
every single one of them has just been positive and delightful. There was
Hmm.
one, there was one in a community in Eastern Oregon that's pretty darn conservative, and one of those guys came by with the big truck, did the spin, did the burnout, and there was a policeman there to pulled him over and gave him a ticket right there in front of the protesters. Yes,
Oh,
it was
yes, yes,
it
yes.
was really kind of delicious. But
Yeah.
but you also have to be very, very realistic about this right now too, right? I mean, I when I go to these, I am aware of my physical surroundings. I have a plan for where I would go if a car comes into the crowd. I'm noticing things. And I have not been in the ones like what's going on in Minneapolis. I have not. Fortunately, that's not going on in my communities. It's
Mhm.
going on a little bit in Portland, Oregon, but
Mhm.
hopefully this is going to be a tipping point, and that crap's not going to be able to happen again because hopefully we will. There's actions that can be taken. That's the piece I'm working on right now. So,
Yeah. Yeah, good. Okay. Well, let's see. How are we doing for time? We've got a few more minutes if we want to take it. What else would you want to say?
well, I will tell you because I know this will be edited. Your camera froze when you were talking about your big dog story.
Oh,
It got
really?
blurred and kind of froze. So, if you wanted to retell that story for part of this,
Okay. I will do that.
oh no,
So,
okay, okay,
well,
cool,
thank
great.
you, Oswaldo. Good. It would be hard to tell that story, but I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, it was before that actually. Just so you know, it was a couple minutes ago. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Oswaldo. Thanks. Good. It would have been hard to tell that story over.
Yeah, yeah, it's going to be good. You're very lucky to have Oswaldo. And Oswaldo, I think you need to mute because we're now getting echo.
Yeah. She's echoing. And so am I.
The sound is echoing.
Do you need to turn yours off?
Resetting.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, I want to say, Sylvia, I'm still hearing the echo, Oswaldo.
I bet it's gone. Oh,
Okay. Let's see. I was going to say, I really liked your self care suggestions for when you were at a protest. And I also just love remembering that there is safety in our groups. And that's the other thing that helps that 12% to come into being.
yeah.
That authoritarianism picks on the soloist as the most vulnerable. So grouping together is a beautiful anti-authoritarian thing that we can do.
That's why zebras have stripes, right? They all blend together and it's hard for the predators to pick them off.
Oh, I love that.
That's true.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
First time I was walking around in Beijing, that's what I did. It was like, oh my God, I'm going to get to the middle of the crowd because this traffic is crazy here. I'm going to play zebra tactics.
No, that's beautiful. I love you bringing in your love for the beings of the earth.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. Anything else that feels like important to say in this broadcast?
Well, I guess again, I would just urge everyone watching this. We're needed. We are needed right now. We are needed in this country. We are needed on this planet. And I would just really encourage everyone who probably already are doers. If you're watching this particular program, you probably already are pretty active. To just really consider within your heart what are you being called to right now, because these are important times. These are either, I believe, evolutionary or devolutionary times. So and to remember also that hallelujah anyway is a form of activism, right? It's like I'm going to look at the effed up situation before us. I'm not going to put my head in the sand. And I'm going to notice beauties. And I'm going to maintain my inner state of consciousness. And I'm going to experience joy. And I'm not going to feel guilty if I'm feeling joy in the midst of the messes, because that's a form of resistance.
Yes. And we also know that joy and love in the long run, so far, have always won out. They won out in the civil rights movement, in the abolitionist movement, in the women's movement. We just have to keep bending that arc toward love. Bending
Yeah,
that
for
arc.
sure. I think it was Joan Baez who said action is an antidote to despair. I think that's really true. It feels good to be active in the face of what we're up against, and again, maintaining our own inner well-being, our own state of consciousness. One of the things when I was an activist before I had my big initiation, I was part of the problem because I was in an us versus them fight
Right.
mentality, right? So now when I'm getting ready to go into an action or what have you, I make sure that I get centered, I get focused, I get intentional, and I'm going to be strong, and I'm going to not be pushed around, and I'm going to be resisting, but I am not going to be antagonizing, and I'm not going to be putting the ugliness in the world that I would like to see go away.
Yes.
And with those of us who have these new thought and unity spiritual tools, who better to be able to do that kind of activism than us?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know, some of our viewers may not be active yet and may be wanting to be active. And so I'm grateful that you guys are here listening too. And Cylvia, if you will send a list of like your economic resources, your Substack, we'll put them on our resources page. And for all of our watchers at 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central, and 2 p.m. Pacific will be, let's see, is that right? I have to do the math in my head. For 1 p.m. Pacific, we will be on a Zoom meeting, and Cylvia will be with us, and we'll be there to respond to your responses and to your questions, and we hope you will join us. There is a link on our first site of our broadcast and also on this site. So we look forward to seeing you soon. I feel...
These times are troubling me, so much I can hardly see through the walls keeping us apart. You got your views and I got mine, but we're together in this moment in time. I hope you can hear me with your heart. I'm not trying to push you away, but I've got something I've got to say. I stand for love, I stand for peace, I stand for humanity and the good of all. I stand for hope, I stand for faith, I stand for freedom and the good of all. I stand, I stand, I stand. Would you stand with me? Could you stand with me? When we don't understand, we turn away instead of learning that there could be another way. Can we agree to disagree? We may never see things eye to eye, but we can hold on to the love between you and I. It's the only way we'll survive. And I'm not trying to push you away, but I got something I've got to say. I stand for love, I stand for peace, I stand for humanity and the good of all. I stand for hope, I stand for faith, I stand for freedom and the good of all. I stand, I stand, I stand. Would you stand with me? I stand, I stand, I stand. Oh, could you stand with me? Now I stand, woo, I stand, I stand. Would you stand with me? I stand, I stand, I stand, oh, I stand. Could you stand with me? I stand for love, I stand for peace, I stand for equality. Would you stand with me? I stand for truth, I stand, oh, for kindness, I stand for freedom. Could you stand with me? I stand for hope, I stand for justice, I stand for faith. Would you stand with me?
team and I are so blessed and grateful to have been called to a social justice ministry at this time in our nation, in our world, and on our planet. If you are inspired by this ministry, and if it feels right to you to support us financially, you can do that. There are 2 links down at the bottom of this page. One is for PayPal that will allow you to donate either through a credit card or through a debit card. And the other link is to Zelle, which will be contributing from your bank account, and it will go to our treasurer. A fellow social activist reminded me that when we donate to social justice causes that inspire us, we are also doing an act of social justice. Thank you.